Hello everyone, happy Labor Day. Today for Labor Day we're going to do the Case Sod Buster. Basically it's a knife that I think every laborer should have, considering they're only like $27. Looking at the knife itself, these are rather roughly finished compared to some of the other cases. Like this edge here is somewhat sharp. They didn't sand it much. And if you look here, you can tell that, like just by that angle here, we're really uneven. But that kind of shows, like, Case at their factory, they have, you know, living, breathing human beings grinding these things, rather than something operated by, you know, children in a sweatshop in the third world. That turns out perfect knives. As far as lockup goes, they're pretty good there. Not a lot of play on that way either. Yeah, decent size. The blade, if you look at it, it's a little thicker than if you had, like, say, 2 pennies stacked up. It's actually one of the thicker blades Case makes. Zoom in there, you can see the stamp. And the Sod Buster with the traditional plow, and then stainless. I think it's funny that they put stainless on there. It almost looks like some of the cheaper knives, but I think it's their retro logo that was probably copied. Companies put stainless on their knives. And just showing it cutting stuff if you try a little bit of a stick. I'm not overly impressed by Case's factory edges. I find that they tend to lag behind the other knife companies in that respect, but this edge was actually decent, which makes me wonder 2 things. Perhaps they intended this to actually be used, because a lot of their knives, I think they're able to be used, but they're intended as collector pieces, whereas this one has your, you'd say, is like a satin finish, versus that mirror finish. And it's a decent edge. Knife handles whittling, no problem. So if you're looking for something cheap to go camping with that you're not afraid, you know, you're going to break or your kid is going to break, you know, for $27 a pop, it's almost something that's somewhat forgettable in that respect. A different medium to cut through here, some jean. Another thing to note with this blade is it's based off of what's like a peasant's knife design. Really actually kind of ancient in terms of blades. It's like the 1800s. You had workmen who had these kind of, it's like a rounded, like drop point but rounded pattern. Almost like something really simple. You could, you know, use this for eating also if you really wanted to. It's a very basic blade design. Your nail nick. They snap. Case also, they have these large, it's almost like a eye bolsters on there. Look at her. And your handle's Delrin, it's not G10. It's got a nice feel to it. A bit of whittling, left-handed. True sharp steel. It's stainless. Has the, you know, blade blatantly brags about. And your blade is going to be 3.6 inch long, Knife weight is 4.7 ounces. It's lightweight. But generally, it's a slightly longer case knife than. It's going to be bigger than your Trappers. It's roughly comparable, in my opinion, to like a buck 110. If the buck 110 didn't have a back lock on it. If you're interested in something that's got a lot of history behind it, relatively cheap, still made in the United States. Don't expect a perfect finish if you look at the blade here. And this is roughly factory new. I got this about a week ago. This is not centered. It's a little off to one side. It came like that. I mean, if you're, going to use and abuse this thing, it matters not. As for a collector, you might be somewhat more demanding. I'm sure if you picked through dozens of these things, you'd find one that's, absolutely perfect. And they do make a higher grade of this knife. The nicer ones have like a bone handle, or various other case handle materials. I think they do make one that is G10, and they also make one that's a carbon fiber. But this is your basic Case Sod Buster. Not a bad knife. I'll do another review of it at some other point, maybe an outdoor review. But until then, happy Labor Day, and go get yourself a Case Sod Buster.